Each year, Supermarket News elects food visionaries to its Hall of Fame. This year, it's all about frozen, customer first, and concrete floors. The $60 billion frozen food industry owes its success to the creative genius of Clarence Birdseye, whose observations of Inuit ice fishing led to his development of a viable flash freezing technology back in 1924. It took years before his invention gained national scale, but by the time he died in 1956, frozen foods had become ubiquitous in United States food retailing. David Dillon took over CEO of Kroger Company in 2003 and has led a transformation of the company that sees itself as more than just a supermarket. The customer-first strategy that he deployed has driven gains in sales and market share that have made it a model for others in the industry. Sol Price, the founder of Modern Warehouse Club formats, created both the FedMart and Price Club chains. His approach was to start with the cost of a product and mark it up as little as possible so that the gross margin covered the selling cost but left a small profit. The editors of Supermarket News explain why these three men have influenced our industry in such a meaningful way. For the full report, just go to supermarketnews.com. Mark Hamster writes how one man essentially did create the frozen food category, which now accounts for about $60 billion in annual retail sales here in the U.S. Clarence Birdseye, whose name still adorns a brand of frozen vegetables. Birdseye's key discovery that flash freezing could preserve the taste and integrity of fresh foods, and his invention of processes to make that discovery work on a large scale, laid the groundwork for the modern frozen food industry and earned him a place in the Supermarket News Hall of Fame. Birdseye was born in Brooklyn, New York, back in 1886, and his entrepreneurial drive became evident at a very young age, according to a biography of him that was published earlier this year. Among his early exploits was an effort at teaching taxidermy at the age of 9, and another venture selling frogs to the frog-eating reptiles at zoos. Birdseye would eventually patent some 200 inventions, including some related to frozen food retailing and others more distantly related, including a new type of whale harpoon. He died in 1956, having transformed frozen food from what Hamster calls an unappealing mush into a multi-billion-dollar industry. John Springer writes how it's been a decade of radical change, most of it for the better, since Dave Dillon took the reins of Kroger Company in 2003. His tenure as chief executive officer has seen the largest U.S. supermarket chain drive a widening gap between itself and its nearest competitors while turning in consistent sales growth that is the envy of the industry. The changes reflect not Dillon's desire to be an agent of change, but rather his willingness and ability to lead change when that's what Kroger's customers require. His role of steering Kroger's customer-first strategy, helping Kroger to establish a blueprint for a successful 21st century food retailer, has earned him the recognition in Supermarket News' Hall of Fame. Dillon is a fourth-generation supermarket operator. His great-grandfather, Jonathan S. Dillon, founded the first Dillon food store in Hutchinson, Kansas in 1913, and his grandfather and father helped to build that company into a publicly traded chain. By the time Dave Dillon joined the company in the 1970s, Dillon was large, diverse, and well-regarded for its people. When Kroger acquired Dillon Companies in 1983, Kroger also acquired its next two CEOs, Joe Pickler, who served from 1990 to 2003, and Dillon himself. Elliot Zweiback explains how Sol Price made his mark on retailing by lowering the selling price of goods. It was Price who led the way for the founders of Target, Kmart, and a guy named Sam down in Bentonville, Arkansas. Price was the inventor of the Warehouse Club store. In addition, he was among the first retailers to add an assortment of low-margin foods to a mix of low-margin general merchandise under the same roof, to see the potential for selling food in bulk sizes, and to offer on-site gas stations, in-store pharmacies, and in-store optical departments. Describing his approach to business in a 2003 interview with Fortune magazine, Price said that business broke down into three categories: personnel, product, and facilities. And the same 6 rules apply to them all. having the right kind in the right place at the right time in the right quantity in the right condition at the right price. Price said he never allowed employees to use the word discount to describe his business model. First FedMart, then Price Club stores. When rival retailers sought to challenge FedMart on some of the low prices it featured, Price decided the company had to be super careful about what they did. The company never used a superlative in the printed material. It did not use comparative pricing. FedMart's whole approach to the way we marketed to people, he said, was totally different than the conventional approach. They had a duty to be very, very honest and fair with their members, and so we avoided sales and advertising, he went on to say. He said, in effect, that the best advertising is by their members, the unsolicited testimonial of the satisfied consumer. Price expanded FedMart from California to Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. And when FedMart opened a store in San Antonio in 1957, it ran up against local segregation laws that required a separate snack bar seating for African Americans. Price's solution? Well, it was to eliminate seating in the snack bar altogether, enabling customers to be served equally. In 1976, after being fired from the firm that bought control of FedMart from the previous year, Price started Price Club, and for years refused to accept credit cards because reportedly he did not like the idea of seeing his customers going into debt. In 1993, he merged his 100 locations, which was doing $800 billion in sales, with Costco.
The Lemper Report uploads right here 3 times a week with the information you need to stay ahead of the trends. For more, just visit thelemperreport.com.